Well, good evening. Hope you're having a great week. It is Tuesday evening. It's Tuesday, October 19th. It is 9:42 p.m. And I'm sitting at the house um, trying to get back out over the road to make some damn money. So while I talk about what's been going on with me, and then after I finish talking about what's going on with me, then I'll talk about the load board, what I'm seeing, on the load board in the freight market on Landstar's load board, my thoughts on it, and then we'll talk about the specific loads that I ended up booking. I have a load booked, and we'll talk about the details of that load. I'll show you where it's going. We'll talk about the money on it and stuff. But while I'm getting you caught up with what's happened since the last video, let's watch my backyard camera. Let's see here what we got. Let's go to the browser and let's zoom in on this camera. It's one of my hobbies when I'm at home is to put food out for the animals. I have a whole bunch of animals that come to my back porch. During the daytime, it's mainly squirrels, and at night, I get possums, skunks, and raccoons, and of course, birds during the day. But there are two possums back there right now. There was a skunk out there a minute ago. But whenever I order groceries, I buy bags of peanuts and almonds, and I dump those out onto the back porch, and I put a bowl of water back there. So that's basically what you're seeing back there. I used to put bird feed out. I tried putting bird feed out, but not even the birds would touch the bird feed. So I just buy bags of nuts and put them out there. And seems like all the animals love peanuts and almonds. So what's happened? The last video I uploaded, I was out at the truck installing ductwork for the HVAC system. The APU HVAC system, whoever did the initial install only hooked up 3 of the 4 vents. There are 4 outlets coming out of the back of the HVAC system, out of the blower unit, and the one of them they just put a cap over it and sealed it. And I've been having issues since I've owned the truck with it not properly heating and cooling the truck. And while I was down in Laredo, I went down to Home Depot and I bought some 3-inch ducting. All they had was fan ducting. It wasn't designed for HVAC. And I installed that as a temporary thing. And it made a huge difference in how well the truck was able to heat and cool the truck. So once I got home, I ordered some actual HVAC ducting and I went down to the truck and installed it. For the most part, it's all installed, but I had to use 2 different hoses because they weren't as long as what they were listed as, and I didn't have any connectors, so I had to order some connectors online. They didn't come in until Sunday, so I haven't had an opportunity to go out and install the connectors. But the hoses are fully run and they're just sitting there right next to each other, unconnected. So it took me less than 5 minutes to put that connector on there and tighten down the clamps on it. But I haven't gotten around to doing that, and I don't know when I'm going to do that, or if I'll just wait until I go out to the truck to leave and I'll do it then. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But since I had to order that stuff, I went ahead and used that opportunity to order some more things, and I ordered some more gloves. Let me show you this. These are nitrile coated gloves. This is a 15 pack of gloves. These things are roughly about $1 a piece. The last pack of these I bought was a 10 pack for $10. The price went up on those. Now that 10 pack is like $20 or $30. So I bought these instead. Basically the same kind of gloves, just made by a different brand, different manufacturer, whatever. But these are my favorite gloves for just normal, general, pre-trips, post-trips, fueling, opening, closing doors, dropping hooking trailers, stuff like that. These are my my favorite gloves for that kind of stuff. And then I have other gloves for other things. But I also ordered a new cold weather hat. I have a skull cap with ear covers on it already in the truck, but it's knitted and it still lets a decent amount of air flow through. So I bought this one. And I got a balaclava with a little air breather thing on it, a respirator or whatever. For the really cold weather. Like, if I'm going to be outside for long periods of time in really cold weather, then I'll wear that. But yeah, got a whole bunch of stuff in, and I've been looking for a load since last week, and there's been a ton of freight, but the prices haven't been that great. I've mainly been looking for loads in the south because the winter has started. There's already been snow in the mountain pass areas, so I've been looking for loads in the south. And there's tons of loads, but they're not paying that well. They're actually paying less than they have been paying. For instance, there are loads that go out of Joplin, Missouri, over to California, lots of different places in California, and they all generally pay $6,500. Well, they've been trying to move those loads for $5,000 to $5,500. You know, $1,000 to $1,500 less than normal. So, I don't know what's going on with that. I'll give you my opinion on why in a minute. But I started looking at other places other than just running in the South because the rates seem suppressed in the South right now. So I started looking at other areas, and I found that loads going into the Northwest seem to be paying even more than normal. And so I started looking at loads. There was a load I was looking at that was going from Tulsa to South Carolina, Tulsa, Oklahoma to Lugoff, near Columbia, South Carolina. And it was paying a pretty good rate to go to South Carolina, but I looked at the loads coming out of South Carolina, and they were just not very good. Within like a 350-mile radius of Lugoff, South Carolina, which included Atlanta, Georgia, and a lot of other really good markets. They weren't paying that well. So I was like, well, it's not really worth it to take this good paying load over there if I'm going to have to take a mediocre or bad load out of there. So I started looking at other places I could potentially go. And loads going into Oregon and Washington were paying really well. So I looked at the Oregon and Washington market to see what it was like coming out of Oregon and Washington, and the loads coming out of Oregon and Washington were paying really well. All right, it looks like the possums are going to take off for a while. Let's go back over to just camera. So I started looking at the weather. The main reason that I don't want to run up north, especially the Northwest in the mountain passes, is because of bad weather. So I started looking at the weather, and there was a snowstorm that just went through, but it looks like it's going to be decent weather for the next week or so. So like, well, I could sneak up to Portland or Seattle right now. So I tried to book a load to Portland, and it was already covered. He actually had like 5 loads going to Portland and 5 loads going to Seattle. He had a total of like 10 loads that were paying like $8,200. And they were all picking up like every day of the week, like the 19th, the 20th, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. There was one picking up every day going to Portland and one picking up every day going to Seattle or Kent, Washington. And when I called up and spoke to CGI Jimmy, he told me that they were all covered. So I started looking at other things, and a load popped up paying really well. It was paying $8,200 going to Sacramento. So it was even better than the Portland loads. Going to an even better market. It was a little bit shorter mileage, and it was paying the same amount as the Portland load, but it was going to a better market, Northern California. The only negative thing about it is that the load had 2 extra stops in Denver. So, on the way to Sacramento, you have to make 2 deliveries in Denver. So, not too thrilled about that. But I called and talked with the broker on that load, and it's Rheem air conditioning units, and you're delivering to 3 different suppliers, distributors, retailers. I don't know what the hell they are. 3 different air conditioning stores, 2 in Denver, 1 in Sacramento. It's a really light load. I think it's like 12 or 13,000 pounds. So you're driving through a lot of mountains. It's good to have a light load. Unless you're driving on snow and ice, then it's good to have a heavy load. But I'm hoping to not have to deal with snow and ice. But I booked that load going to Sacramento from Fort Smith, Arkansas. I live in Oklahoma City, for anybody who doesn't know. Fort Smith is 180 miles east of Oklahoma City. So, 3-hour drive from my house to Fort Smith. The Rheem place that I'm picking up from is a 24/7 operation. You can, it's a preloaded trailer. They said that I can show up at any time I want to pick the trailer up. And I told them that they told me that the delivery appointments cannot be changed. So the delivery appointments, I can pick the trailer up today if I wanted to, but I can't deliver in Denver until Monday morning. My 2 appointments in Denver are Monday at 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. So I could leave today and go to Denver if I wanted to, but like it's kind of pointless. So I told him I'd pick the trailer up in the middle of the night, Friday night, probably somewhere close to around midnight, and then take off to Denver from there. And then after my deliveries in Denver Monday morning, the final delivery in Sacramento is Wednesday morning at like 8 a.m. So that should give me plenty of time to get to Sacramento. Let me see here. Denver to Sacramento. It's 1,162 miles. That should be plenty of time. Yeah, it should be plenty of time. And then to get to Denver, Fort Smith, Arkansas to Denver, Colorado is 810 miles. Yeah, that should be really easy. Because my first drive shift will be 3 hours of me driving to Fort Smith. And then I will drive from Fort Smith. I'll drive out the remainder of my hours, which will be probably somewhere in the area of 8 hours. If you put in an average of, let's say, 65 miles an hour, 8 times 65, that's 520 miles. So somewhere around 8 a.m. Saturday morning, I will be roughly 300 miles away from Denver. And I'll take a 10-hour break until 6 p.m. So 6 p.m. I'll drive about 5 hours and make it to Denver. And so I'll be in Denver about 11 p.m. Saturday night if I push like as hard as I can to get there. So I have like 24 hours or more to spare to get to Denver. And I probably have a lot of extra time going from Denver to Sacramento. So I have plenty of time to get there. Now let's talk about these freight markets and how just absolutely absurd they are. Real quick, since I've already talked a whole bunch of stuff about the load, I think I've already mentioned what the load's paying, but if I didn't, let's just cover that real quick. The load is paying around $8,200. Let me look it up, get the exact numbers. The broker, the email they sent me is weird. A second here. Oh, are you kidding me? Like, I don't know what she did to send the email, but like, it's really hard for it to show up. You know what? I'm just going to copy this. No, I don't want to mess with it right now. So it's paying $72.07 line haul. Let's break this down. So it's $72.07.50 line haul plus $125 for extra stops, and I get 65% of that. So let's add those two together and multiply times 0.65. That's $4,766.13. Now let's add the fuel surcharge, of which I get 100%, $807.24. So the total amount that I'm making on the load is $5,573.36.5. So what was that? 5,537? 5,573, not 37. So 55.73. Roughly $5,500. And I picked the load up Friday night, and the final delivery is on Wednesday. And I have quite a bit of extra time throughout the load. It's a real casual load. So it's nice. Fuel prices are absolutely crazy right now. So I'm going to have to figure out a fuel route. I have a rough idea of where I'm going to be fueling because I have a pretty good idea of where the cheapest fuel I'm going to be able to find is at. I'll top off in Kansas. I might top off in Colorado. Wyoming and Utah are expensive. I haven't been in Nevada in a while, but I think Nevada is almost as expensive as California. But I'll probably still top off in Nevada before I cross into California. But I'm going to be spending a lot of extra on fuel. All right, so let's take a look at the load board. And let me kind of show you how crazy the freight market is right now. The West Coast is just insane. Absolutely insane right now. Seattle and Portland are usually bad freight markets. There's a lot of freight coming out of the Seattle and Portland areas, but it usually pays really, really bad. Like normally, like the normal loads coming out of the Seattle and Portland area are paying between $2 and $2.50 a mile. The good loads are paying between $2.50 and $3 a mile. And if you can get over $3 a mile for a load coming out of the Seattle and Portland area, you're doing really well. Like that is a really good load for the Seattle-Portland area. Right now, that's not the case. The Seattle-Portland area looks like what Southern California normally looks like. It's just tons and tons of really amazing loads. The Seattle-Portland area is just crazy. Let me try and put it into some kind of context on how good it is. A really basic way that I judge how good the Southern California market is by how many loads over $8,000 there are in the Southern California area. If whenever I pull up a page of results of loads in the Southern California area, if there are loads under $8,000 on that first page, then the Southern California market is not very good. If I can go down a couple of pages and you know, the loads are still over $8,000 for the first couple of pages, then that's a really solid, you know, Southern California market. If I can scroll, you know, 3 or 4 pages and there's 8 loads over $8,000, you know, 3 or 4 pages down of loads, then the Southern California market is like really, really good. Right now, it's insane. So, Tracy, California. Let me show you. Let's look at the Southern California market. Fontana, California. Why is this not? All right, I think I might need to refresh the page. Let me pause this. All right, now let's see if it'll work. So let's look at Fontana, California. There we go, it's working now. And let's do a 200-mile radius. We don't want to get all the way up into Northern California. Let's just do 200 miles. Actually, let's do 150 miles. Let's just do 150 miles. And what we're looking at is all dry van solo driver loads. I don't want to see team loads. I don't want to see reefer or step deck or anything like that. So these are just loads that I can haul that are up to 45,000 pounds. And it is including hazmat. I have it set up to only show loads over $2 per mile and over $8,000. I don't want some ridiculous load that's paying like $1 a mile that's going 20,000 miles running circles around the U.S. or anything like that. Any other restrictions? I don't have anything else set up. All right, let's get load count. 688 loads. Within 150 miles of Fontana, California, this is the Southern California market, there are 688 loads on the load board over $8,000. The most loads that'll show up are 500 loads in a search result. So if I were to do a search right now, I could scroll all the way down to the bottom and the last load will be over $8,000 because only 500 results will show up. There's 688 loads within 150 miles of Fontana, California, over $8,000 on Landstar's load board. Now let's check Northern California. Search Sacramento, California. 150 mile radius. Load count. 241 loads over $8,000 in Northern California. That is insane. Now, let's check the Seattle and Portland area. We'll search for Portland, Oregon, and we'll take it up to 300 miles, and we'll get the entire Seattle and Portland area. 192 loads in the Seattle-Portland area over $8,000. These are just solo dry van loads. 192 loads over $8,000. That means that I would be scrolling through pages and pages and pages of loads over $8,000. This right here, what's happening in Seattle and Portland, this is what the Southern California market normally looks like when it's doing really well. So the entire West Coast is just crazy right now. To put this into some kind of perspective, there are two things that I'll show you here. Number one, let's go and look over at the East Coast. Let's go look at what's a good central place in the East Coast. Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore, Maryland. Let's do a 500, the absolute max range, 500-mile radius around Baltimore, Maryland. This should be getting, you know, almost all the way up to Maine, maybe all the way up to Maine, and it should be going as far south as probably Savannah, Georgia. Savannah, let's look at Jacksonville. Jacksonville, Florida to Baltimore, Maryland. 744 miles. So it's not making it all the way down to Florida. It's coming up a couple hundred miles short. Maybe I should do like Richmond, Virginia. Measure distance. All right, that's 618. So right here is 500 miles. That's 500 miles. So we're getting New York. We're getting all the way up to Vermont. And we're getting almost all the way down to Jacksonville. Now it's 744 driving miles. Oh no, this is from Richmond. So if I do a search from Richmond, I'll almost get all the way down to Jacksonville. So let's do Richmond, Virginia search. Richmond, Virginia. 500 miles around Richmond, Virginia. Let's see how many loads over $8,000 there are. 85 loads over $8,000 on pretty much the entire East Coast. Versus how many loads on the West Coast? There were like 688 down in the LA area. There were like 200 and I forgot how many, 250 or so. So we'll say 650 plus 250, that's 700, 900 loads. And then there were a couple hundred loads up in the Seattle, Portland area. So there are over 1,000, close to 1,100 loads on the West Coast over $8,000 versus 85 loads on the East Coast. Let's try the central U.S. Let's try, what would be a good central, Memphis, Tennessee maybe? Actually, let's try St. Louis. No. Let's try somewhere in here, like Davenport, Iowa. Yeah, Davenport, Iowa. That'll get some really good markets. I think Minneapolis will be within range. Milwaukee, Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City. There'll be a lot of really good markets within range of Davenport. Indianapolis. Let's try Davenport. $70 loads in the north central U.S. Chicago, Milwaukee, tons of amazing freight markets. 70 loads over $8,000 in those areas. So the West Coast is just absolutely insane right now as far as the rates go. The other thing to take into consideration is that it's 10 o'clock at night. The loads that are on the load board right now are the leftovers, the scraps, the loads that nobody else wanted. This is the trash that's sitting on the board right now. Whenever we're at the peak of the day, there will be a lot more loads over $8,000 on the board. So it's just, the West Coast is just insane right now. the rates coming out of the West Coast, the entire West Coast, not just California, but also Oregon and Washington. The rates coming out of the entire West Coast are really good right now. They're better down in California than Oregon and Washington, but Oregon and Washington are like California rates. But California is like way, way better than normal California rates. So yeah, what I think is going on. Oh, no animals out there. What I think is going on is a lot of things. I think it's three major things. Number one, there are a lot of people that migrate south for the winter. So a lot of drivers don't like running in the north, especially the northwest where all the mountain passes are at. A lot of drivers don't like running that in the winter. So a lot of drivers have come south, and I'm seeing that in suppressed rates. Down in the south, the rates just aren't as good as what they normally are. I think I mentioned earlier those Joplin loads that normally pay $6,500. They're trying to move those things at $5,000 right now. Joplin, Missouri, going to Southern California. So that's the reason I started looking at rates. I started looking at loads going into other areas. Initially, what I was planning on doing when I left the house was just running back and forth down 10. I was going to stay in the south running on 10. But the rates just kind of suck running on the 10. Now, if I can get over to Southern California, then I can get good rates coming out across the 10. But to get back over to Southern California on the 10, it's pretty cheap. So I was looking at alternative places to go. And that's when I noticed how good the rates were running up to, like going to Oregon and Washington is paying more than what it normally does. Normally, loads going from Dallas up to the Oregon and Washington area, they're paying like 6,000, 6,500. If you can, sometimes you can occasionally get those loads for like $7,000. They're paying 8,200 roughly, between $8,100 and $8,500 for loads going to Oregon and Washington right now. There was like 10 to 12 of them on the board, and they pretty much all got covered. But there were a ton of loads on the board going up to Oregon, Washington, paying over $8,000. So that's telling me that people are not wanting to go to Oregon and Washington, and they're having to increase the rates on these loads. I think it's because it's winter and people don't want to be driving through those mountain passes. We just had a snowstorm come through that area, shut the roads down, and now we have some clear weather. So those loads were not moving. Like those loads going from Dallas to Oregon and Washington. They were sitting on the board on Friday. They were sitting on the board on Monday. And then all of a sudden, the weather forecast was that, it was supposed to be nice weather up in the Northwest for the next week or so. Then all those loads disappeared off the board. So I think that's part of what's causing the rates on the loads on the West Coast and in the North to be high right now, is there's not as many people going over there. There's not as many people taking loads there. That's driving the rates up on loads that are going into the Northwest. And it's also reducing the number of trucks that are in the Northwest to take freight out. So that's causing the prices of loads going out of Oregon and Washington to go up. Also, we have the container thing. There's a lot of misconceptions on what's going on with the containers. A lot of people think that we're just like not moving as many containers as we normally do. There's dumbasses saying that there's a driver shortage. There's dumbasses saying that there's a labor shortage at the ports, and that's the reason that there's a container backup. All of that is a bunch of bullshit. We are moving more containers, and we've been moving more containers than ever. It's like all-time highs. So we don't have a shortage of any labor anywhere in moving the containers. The problem is that we have way more containers than we normally move. The demand, people are buying shit like crazy. There's so many containers coming over from Asia that the ports can't keep up with it. And it's just been causing an ongoing problem. They just kept building up more and more ships out parked off the coast. We can't process the amount of goods that are coming into the country. I think that this is a problem that was caused by the lockdowns. When the lockdowns happened, people stopped buying. Everything just kind of stopped for about 2 or 3 months. And then the floodgates opened and everybody started buying all that shit that, like, there was all that built up demand for products. And that has caused product scarcity. It's caused a lot of problems. And then we had a whole bunch of other issues, like we have a semiconductor shortage, and it's caused, like, we had that built up demand after the lockdown of people wanting to buy stuff. And then on top of that, we have a bunch of prepping and hoarding that's happening right now, not by individuals, like that is happening by, regular people are prepping and hoarding, but the problem is companies. Companies are starting to buy more shit than they need for fear that it's not going to be available when they need it. And that is leading to just an insane surge in demand. And we just have a crazy number of containers coming across. So they are increasing how many containers we can process at the ports. They're moving to 24/7 operation at a couple of the major ports. Long Beach has been doing 24/7 for a month or more. The Port of Los Angeles is going to move to 24/7. I don't know what the other ports are doing. There are companies like Amazon that are looking at renting ships to move containers over. The places where it's most congested are the large ports that can receive the huge container ships. Those big container ships can't go to just any port. There's very few ports that they can go to offload. Ports that are big enough for them. Amazon and a couple other companies are looking at getting smaller ships that can go to other ports that aren't as congested. And this is going to increase the flow of containers into the country. The 24/7 operations and the additional ships moving containers into the smaller ports will increase the total amount of freight coming in containers. So, and container freight affects all of us because they take those containers, a lot of the times they take those containers over to a warehouse, unload them, and then it goes on to a normal truck, a normal, trailer. So it's not just container drivers that are going to see this freight. This freight moves by every means possible. So it should be a huge surge in freight, and we're at like the peak buying season. So I expect freight volumes to climb dramatically, and I expect prices to go up quite a bit, and I don't know when it's going to relent. One of the things that really sucks is the fuel prices. Fuel prices are crazy, and they just keep going up. Like fuel prices are just crazy right now, and they keep going up by like huge chunks every week. Man, it's in the last month it's gone up like 30 cents a gallon, roughly. It's like 3.10 a gallon at places that were 2.80 a gallon. And I'm talking about the price that I pay after the discounts. I don't really pay attention to the pump price. I pay attention to the price that I pay after discounts. And I'm paying about 30 cents a gallon more now than I was a month ago. And there's just been huge leaps in price like that ever since we had Biden come into office. I don't know what exactly happened when Biden came into office that caused fuel to just start raising like crazy. I think he shut down some pipelines or something. I think he made some changes to slow down domestic production of oil. So now we're having to rely more on foreign oil. That's my guess. I don't know. I haven't really deep dived into the subject to figure out what in the hell happened with fuel prices, but fuel prices are fucking crazy. And the fuel surcharge hasn't changed much from when I was paying $1.80 for fuel last year to right now where I'm paying $3.10 a gallon for fuel. The fuel surcharge is about the same. So the fuel surcharge system doesn't work worth a damn. Uh, I think that's about it. I was trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to mention in the video. I don't know where I'm going to go out of Sacramento. There's a lot of things that I can do after I deliver in Sacramento. I can run up and down the 5 because freight over on the West Coast is just freaking crazy. And I'm really hesitant to get away from the West Coast once I get over there because freight in a lot of other areas is not that great. So if I do leave the West Coast, I'm going to try to find a place where I can get back to the West Coast. I'm going to try to stay out over the road for a while. I'm trying, I've been trying to work more and stay home less, but I keep running into problems. You know, make a delivery and get down there, and I don't have it empty, and I got to sit around trying to figure out how I can get another trailer. You know, I come home to get work done on my truck, and I end up having to sit around for 3 or 4 weeks waiting for an appointment and waiting for parts and waiting for this and waiting for that. I am trying to get out and run more. So we'll see. Another thing that I might look into tomorrow is I might, you know what? Let me search it right now. Let me pause this while I do a search. All right, I was going to look and see if there was a load that I could take from Oklahoma City over to Fort Smith. Just to have something to do between now and when I pick the load up Friday night. But this is the only load, and it doesn't pick up until after the other load picks up, so I can't do this load. I'm not sure, would I bother with this load? Maybe. Let me see where these two locations are at. I don't know where Sapulpa or Clarksville are at. I don't want to go way out of route to just make a couple $100. So I'd have to drive all the way up to Tulsa, and then Clarksville is a decent ways past. If it were paying a little bit more, maybe. But, on this, what is this, $955 load that I'm getting 65% of, it's roughly $650 that I'd be making, less than that, $630 or so. And it's like all toll roads. It would probably cost me somewhere in the area of $40 or $50 in tolls. So I'd make like $600 gross to the truck, and then I would have fuel coming out of that and all the rest of my expenses. So I would probably make, after all expenses, somewhere in the area of $500, maybe $550, somewhere around $500 is what I'd make on this load. I don't know if that'd be worth my time to even bother with. But maybe I'll look at the load board tomorrow. Like I said, it's 10:30 at night right now, and all the good loads have already been taken. This is just the trash that's left on the board. I might check the board tomorrow and see if there's a load that I can take from Oklahoma City to Fort Smith. And maybe I'll leave out a little bit earlier than Friday night, because it's only Tuesday night right now. I've ordered groceries. I have all the food and everything I need to go out over the road. Like, I have everything I need. It's just a matter of packing the truck up and going. I don't even know if I'm going to cook any more food, because I'm not sure if I can fit any more food on the truck. I might cook some more food. Maybe. I'll have to think about it. I don't know if I'll be able to fit it on the truck though. I already have a bunch of food that I've cooked for the truck. Uh, but I do have a small freezer area in the factory refrigerator that I can put stuff in, so I might be able to squeeze some stuff into that. Uh, I'll have to figure something out. But maybe I'll cook some more food tomorrow. But I think that's about it for this video. Friday night I'll be picking up a load in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and I'll take it to Denver, do a couple of deliveries in Denver Monday morning, and then I'll drive on to Sacramento, California. If I didn't already mention it, then one of the reasons that I took this load to Sacramento, there are three major reasons. Number one, it was paying a really good rate. Number two, it was going to the West Coast, a really premium market right now. And number three is nostalgia. I used to live in the Reno Sparks area in Nevada. I used to live right here. And the main route that I ran was Reno to Sacramento. I ran that all the time. I drove for Swift whenever I first started in trucking like 20 years ago. And I was on a Kmart dedicated account throughout a lot of my time there. And I pulled loads out of a Kmart distribution center in Reno, and I delivered to Kmart stores in Northern California. And then I'd grab loads going back to Reno and do that over and over again. And then I drove a line haul for a company called Conway Western Express, which is now XPO Logistics, out of the Sparks, Nevada terminal in Reno. And the main line haul run that I did was the lowest one on the totem pole, was Reno to Sacramento, back and forth. I drive to Reno. I would drive from Reno to Sacramento. Well, I would get to work at like 8 o'clock at night. I would work on the dock in Reno, loading and unloading trailers until they gave me my paperwork. And then I'd go hook up my trailers, drive to Sacramento, and I'd work the dock in Sacramento until they gave me my paperwork. And then I'd hook up my trailers and drive back to Reno, drop my trailers off, and go home. So I went back and forth across Donner Pass on 80 twice a day, 5 days a week. And I did a lot of chaining driving across that thing. We lost a lot of drivers in the winter because a lot of people don't understand what it's like to drive one of these trucks in snow and ice, and especially to chain. And it's an eye-opening experience whenever these new drivers get to like one of these mountain passes like Donner Pass, and it's just like a fucking winter wonderland. And there's all kinds of signs and shit everywhere and flashing lights, and they have to pull over and in a chain up area, and then they get the chains out and try to chain the vehicle up, and they just have no idea what they're doing. The chains are really heavy. You get soaking wet, and you're bent over at the waist, trying holding them out, arms extended, trying to get them over the tires and stuff. And whenever you go to roll the chains on, if you don't do it just perfect, the chains will just fall right off the tires, and you'll have to go do it all again. And I mean, if you're good at chaining, once you get good at chaining, you have the proper gear. I got to the point where I could put chains on in about 15 minutes. And we had new drivers that would get out there, and they would spend 8 hours at the chain up area. And then finally dispatch would just tell them to turn around and come back to Reno. And we had a lot of turnover because of that. In the winter months, we went through drivers like crazy. There were very few drivers that could successfully chain and make it over the mountain. Most of them would just try to wait it out. There were very, very, very few of them that would chain and drive across the mountain. But I am not going to ever chain a truck again if I have any say in the matter. I don't plan on ever chaining again. So whenever I'm driving to Sacramento, I'm going to be watching the weather. And if there's going to be a snowstorm, then I will divert. You see this alternate route that I have right here? Whenever I make my deliveries in Denver, if the weather is good for me to go on to Sacramento, then I'll go ahead and drive up to 80. Excuse me. And take 80 to Sacramento. But if there is bad weather across 80, then I'm going to dip down to 40, and I'll take 40 over to the 58 to the 99 and take the 99 up to Sacramento and avoid the bad weather. So as you can see right now, there is winter weather happening in Wyoming. The orange and red areas are slow moving traffic. So right here in near Laramie, there is basically completely stopped traffic. So I would guess that there's probably snow happening right now just east of Laramie. Right here, winter storm warning for southeast Wyoming. So down here in southeast Wyoming, actually it's basically all of eastern Wyoming, you see a lot of slow moving traffic everywhere. And that's probably because they're having some snow and ice through there. So we'll have to see what it's like whenever I drive through. Another thing, a little tip for winter weather driving is avoid driving at night. Temperatures drop at night. The stuff that they put on the roads whenever they clear the roads off to keep it from refreezing, that stuff only works down to a certain temperature. If it gets really cold at night, the roads will refreeze, even if they have salt and sand and whatever chemical on the roads. If they get below a certain temperature, I don't know what the temperature is, but it's probably somewhere around 10 degrees. Then they will refreeze, even with chemicals and stuff on them. So it's better to drive during the day. The direct sunlight on the roads helps to keep them from freezing, regardless of what the temperature is. And then the temperatures are usually higher during the day. So as much as I love driving at night and I hate driving during the day, if we're going to be dealing with snow and ice, I become a daytime driver. But yeah, I'll have to be watching the weather between now and when I'll make a decision when I'm in Denver is basically what's going to happen. After I make the deliveries in Denver, I'll make a decision on where to go from Denver. Whether I'm going to drive down to 40 or drive up to 80 to get to Sacramento. But I don't foresee any problems going to Denver this early in the winter. Right now, this early in the winter, the only places you really have to worry about bad weather are the high elevation mountain pass areas. The whole fucking state of Wyoming, basically. And then, all these mountain passes over in the northwest. Donner. You have a lot of the mountains in the Utah and Wyoming area, Idaho. There's just over here in the northwest, there's just mountain passes everywhere. But those are about the only places you really have to worry about. Sorry, I was just looking at all the congestion throughout the country. It's bedtime. This early in the winter, those are the only places you really have to worry too much about winter weather. As we get later into the season, then I-70 in Kansas and Colorado, it's prone to winter weather. But this early in the season, it shouldn't be too bad. Flagstaff, Arizona is prone to winter weather when we get deeper into the season. You know, Grapevine in California, Shasta up here in Northern California, Snoqualmie up here in Seattle, Snoqualmie Pass. There's a lot of places where we get winter weather, but this early in the season, the main thing you got to worry about is Wyoming. That's the main thing. But all throughout the Northwest right here, all these mountain passes can get early snow. Donner Pass over here in California, I-80. You look on here and there's a lot of slow moving traffic on I-80. So they are probably getting some winter weather on 80 right now. Let me pause and check something out. Alright, so I'm looking at some traffic cameras on I-80 up across Donner, and it looks like the roads are pretty clear. There's snow on the grass on the sides of the road, but the shoulders and the roads are clear, so all the traffic backups look like it's construction and accidents and stuff like that. The roads look like they're pretty damn clear. Let me see if I can pull up some cameras in Wyoming. And this is what it looks like in that traffic jam on 80 and in between Cheyenne and Laramie on I-80 in Wyoming. It's snowing pretty good. Lots of backed up traffic. I don't see anybody with chains on. Let's see, that is Summit Tavern. I think they might have the road closed. Huh. There's like no traffic anywhere except right there. Yeah, traffic is just stopped in both directions. My guess is that they either have the road closed here or traffic is just slowing down a lot because of the heavy snow in this particular area, or there might be some accident in the median that's affecting both sides of the interstate. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to messing with some of that crap. Oh, chain law. Let's check out. There's no chain law in effect in Wyoming right now. Yeah, I don't know why traffic is backed up like that. Both sides of the interstate. Well, I'll be driving through there. What'll that be? Probably. My deliveries in Denver are Monday morning, so I'll probably be driving through there Monday afternoon. Yeah, I'm gonna try to drive across Wyoming during the daytime, but we'll see what happens. Or who knows? Maybe I'll take I-40 and I won't drive across Wyoming at all. I'll go south out of Denver. Add about 5 hours to my trip, but avoid driving across Wyoming. I don't know. It does kind of sound fun to like. I love winter weather. I love cold weather. I hate hot weather. I love cold. I love snow. I don't know if I would say that I love ice. I don't really love ice, but I love cold and I love snow. I just don't like driving in, snow and ice. All right, I need to wrap this video up and go get my beauty sleep because if I get any uglier, I'm not going to be able to make YouTube videos. You guys will start mocking me and stuff. Let's check. We got varmints out there. There's my skunk. The skunk is out there eating it up. So the only thing we haven't seen so far is the raccoon. We had two possums. I've never noticed two possums out there before. I've only ever seen one at a time. So we had two possums out there earlier. Of course, we had the squirrels during the day. They don't normally come out at night. We had the squirrels, two possums, the skunk, and the raccoon will probably make a showing later in the evening. So yeah, I'll probably wrap this video up and go get me some sleep. What I'm thinking of on feeding the animals is no. This whole thing feeding the animals started out with just feeding the squirrels. So I was just putting nuts out there. Now all these other animals are omnivores, so yeah, they can eat nuts, and nuts is that's part of their diet. But the skunks and the raccoons and the possums, they kind of prefer uh, insects and meat and stuff like that. So what I think I might start doing is putting out hot dogs. Whenever I put out the nuts, put out some hot dogs for the nighttime creatures. So, when it starts getting dark, I'll put some hot dogs out there for the nighttime creatures. I know the squirrels, they probably are not going to want to eat the hot dogs, so I won't put them out during the day, but I'll put them out for the nighttime creatures. But, yeah, I think that's about it for me. Be careful out there in the winter weather. Don't try to be a super trucker. Don't listen to the stupid bullshit that all the other dumbass people out there are going to tell you about. Oh, just chain up and keep going, and the snow ain't shit, and I drive 80 miles an hour in the snow and ice, and these people just don't know how to drive on snow and ice. Don't listen to those idiots. If they haven't gotten into an accident already, they will get into an accident. Don't do the stupid shit that they do. Be safe out there. Trucking is a marathon. It's not a sprint. If you get out there just trying to sprint your ass off, save every second you can, get everywhere as fast as you can, you're eventually going to get into an accident that's going to mess your career up. So do what you got to do to get from point A to point B. Don't try to be a super trucker. And, just be safe out there. Don't try to keep up with everybody else. One of the things I'm going to tell you that happens every single time I drive on snow and ice is I am just getting constantly passed by super truckers. And you know where I end up seeing those sons of bitches? Is in the ditch 20 miles down the road. It's exactly what happened to me in February when I started driving last year. It's the only time I've driven in snow and ice since I got my CDL this time. The second time I've gotten my CDL. I drove in snow and ice my very first, I drove in snow and ice quite a few times while I was in training. But my very first day of training out over the road, I drove across I-70 in Kansas, and it was snowing. And I was driving 40 miles an hour in the snow. And I'm getting passed by super truckers going 70 plus miles an hour. They ended up shutting down I-70, not because of road conditions, not because the road was too bad to drive on. They shut it down because of how many fucking dumbass super truckers were out there going 70 miles an hour on those road conditions. And there were 5 trucks that went in the ditch in a 5-mile stretch of the road. 5 of those dumbasses that passed me going 70 miles an hour went in the ditch. So they shut 70 down because idiots were just driving way too fast for conditions. And they were running off the road. If those people would have slowed down to 35, 40 miles an hour, then everybody would have been able to drive through there and they wouldn't have shut the road down. But because they drove through there way too fast for conditions, and they all, I hope none of them got seriously injured. But because they were driving too fast for conditions, the road got shut down. If there are too many accidents, I don't care how bad the conditions are, they'll shut the roads down, even if the road conditions are still passable. Like, there weren't any kind of chain restrictions or anything on the roads. The roads were not even fully covered in snow. And they had to shut the road down just because of simply how fast people were driving in the conditions. And they slid off the road and went in the ditch. So don't be a super trucker. Don't try to, all those super truckers that talk all that noise, run their mouths about how badass they are and how they're a bunch of dumbasses that don't know how to drive in the snow, that are sitting over there driving 20, 30 miles an hour. Don't listen to those dumbass super truckers. Don't try to do the stupid shit they say that they do. And all those trucks that are flying by you going really fast, that's not everybody. All the other safe drivers like you, they're not catching up with you and passing you. It's just the dumbass super truckers that are flying by everybody. Oh, we got a new animal. So the skunk is still over here, and there's a new animal up here in the top left. Is that a second skunk? Oh my goodness. In the same night, we're going to get 2 skunks and 2 possums. I've never seen 2 skunks, and I've never seen 2 possums until tonight. I don't know if that's a skunk over there, but we'll see in a minute. I don't know what in the hell that other skunk is doing. He's come into the bottom of the camera. There's nothing over there. That's the side of the house. There he is. Or she. They're just kind of moseying around over there. Oh, yep. It looks like another skunk. There it is. It's on the sidewalk right here. Over on the left. Yeah, it's a second skunk. Oh my goodness. 2 possums and 2 skunks in the same night. That is awesome. I hope they're friends. I hope they're not going to fight. That one's raising its tail up like it's wanting to spray it or something. Uh, that one's being very cautious. There's plenty of food for both of them, so hopefully they can get along out there. The I'm pretty sure that that skunk over on the left that's been raising its tail is the same one that's been normally coming in here every night. The other one looks like it's probably new, because the that skunk sprayed one of the possums last night. The possum was trying to eat at the same time as the skunk, and the skunk got scared and sprayed it. That possum just ignored it and kept on eating. Possum didn't care at all. But yeah, I'm gonna go and go downstairs and start getting ready for bed, and decide what I'm gonna do as far as getting the truck ready to go. I don't know if I'm gonna like make. Maybe I'll make an extra trip to the truck to pack stuff in it before I leave, or I might just wait until I leave and load everything up and pack it in the day that I leave instead of having to make two trips there. I'll figure that out. I got a couple of days before I leave, so yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out and driving anywhere, but I'm really excited about seeing some snow. I hope there's no snow on the roadway, but I am excited about seeing snow alongside the roadway. So anyway, I'll end the video there. Thanks for watching. Have a good one and be safe out there. Bye.